welcome back to Bourbon Barrel Talk. I'm your host, Scott Minton, and today we are doing day 3 of the 12 days of OFO, and I'm sitting down with Josh and Tyler again, and we are talking on the third day about the Old Forester Rye. Josh?
On the third day of Old Foe, my liquor store sold to me Old Forester 100 proof rye whiskey, and it's a damn good whiskey. So today we're talking about the 100 proof Old Forester Rye. You should be able to get this at pretty much any liquor store in the continental United States.
I think we've gotten there. Can't say enough about this one as it went gangbusters out of the gate, and we did not anticipate the demand being what it was. So it was released, and then there was a shortage. But I think we're pretty solid out there in the market now.
I think I remember seeing this one hit the secondary market for a few weeks because it sold out really quickly in Louisville. And then all of a sudden supply hit back, and demand probably lessened as people went on to got off the newness of the Old Forester 100 proof rye, which was the first or the only current rye whiskey that's in Old Forester's brand. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Our first new mash bill ever as well. It is it's 65% rye. It's a lower rye, 20% malted barley, and 15% corn. So it does have a better balance. It's not like one of those Maryland or Pennsylvania ryes that are 90 and up, but just beautifully done. We do 20% malted barley, which is pretty high, but that's because we get a fully natural fermentation. We don't need enzymes like you need in some of those higher rye bourbons to get full starch conversion for our yeast. So it's the same classic Old Forester yeast strain. So we consider it very much part of the family, aside from the mash bill.
So day 3, lucky number 3, however you want to look at it, this is the only rye whiskey we're going to be sampling in the 12 days of Old Foe. And so it's going to stand out different than the other 11 days, and a whole lot more different than probably the first 2 days we've come to so far. So rye, traditionally, some might say it's hotter or a little more spice to it, kind of a tongue punch, you might say. How would you guys describe rye differently than a bourbon for our listeners that may not know what a rye is versus the standard, the signature bourbon?
So for me, the Old Forester Rye is different than most other ryes that I drink. I would probably categorize it because of the mash bill not having quite that punch. You get a little bit more of those fruity floral notes on these ryes, on this specific rye, than what you do on some of the other ones, where you'll get those pepper notes. Sometimes you get some heavy mint. So that's where I find the difference in the Old Forester Rye from the other ryes that I try. Tyler, where are you at on that?
No, I fully agree. This one it's lighter on its feet. It has more of, you do get fruits. You get cherries in here. You get rose petal and some of those purple flowers like a violet or a lavender going on in there, along with a little bit of the grassy and peppery backbone to it. It's still a rye at its core, but just beautifully versatile and a great intro rye as well. This is going to turn a lot of people on to rye. It's especially when you side by side it with bourbon. It's amazing. You can really, which is how I recommend getting into rye, is pour yourself a glass of bourbon. You know what that is. Smell the bourbon, then pop over to the rye, and then you can jump back, and it's amazing how it changes the bourbon. Bourbon turns into like maple syrup and vanilla, no matter what you were smelling before then. But yeah, this is what I'm drinking right now. It's perfect for those wintry months, the holidays. This is what I took for Thanksgiving, and got a little left, thankfully.
I tell you what, it has a nose punch of brown sugar. I mean, it just hits you with that. And it draws me back into one of those first barrel strength releases that the gift shop here put out, which was the brown sugar. And it's got that smell to it that's just, you're right, it's like candy. It's just like sweet sugar.
It reminds me of the 1920 as well. Like, it gives me some of those same scents. Now, obviously, this is nowhere near as hot as the 120. I mean, it was the 1920, but it's very reminiscent of that bourbon as well. Whenever you get that, because if I remember correctly, the 1920 is a higher rye, flavor to it as far as that goes.
All right, so Tyler, I got to ask you if you can go through it again for our listeners, what we did right before we came on the podcast, which was nosing. We happened to had been drinking the 100 proof signature right before we started drinking this, just as a kind of welcome of the day. And then you did them side by side and had us nose it. Tell us a little bit about what that does.
Sure. Well, and it's something we may have talked about this on the last podcast, something I recommend, especially if you're getting into bourbon, but also if you're an aficionado. Tasting side by side is the best way to differentiate between different bourbons. You get that paint swatch effect. But yeah, you can smell we did the signature 100. You get all those beautiful chocolates and cherries and whatever we were getting. And then you jump over to the rye and you get the fruity, the floral, the lemon, the pepper, and immediately put down the rye and pick back up your bourbon glass, and it just turns into pure maple syrup and sweet vanilla. It's an amazing contrast. It throws your nose for a loop. It's really fun.
I have to ask, are you a magician? Because that really shocked the hell out of me.
Right. And it's not power of suggestion because it works with everyone. I love doing that, just for fun on barrel picks or when I get to do a tour, when I used to be able to get to do tours.
Those things are a thing of the past in person right now.
Have you ever asked somebody like, hey, smell this, then smell this, then smell this, and what do you get? And how many people are actually able to be like, ooh, that's maple syrup? Like, or do they just say, ooh, that's a really sweet smell? Or,
I think I usually use the power of suggestion and I'm just going to tell you, you're going to go back and it's going to turn into pure maple syrup. But yeah, I've never gotten anyone that really says, for me it was chocolate.
It's interesting. If you're new to it and you pick up a glass and you want to nose it, and you're just trying to come up on your own with what's in there, it may be difficult for you to pick out some of what a master taster may write down as an aroma or tasting notes. But once you read that master taster's notes, or you read their thoughts on it, and then you're like, oh, hot damn, I do smell tobacco leaves, or, oh, hot crap, that's cherries all in that thing. And it really is. And it could be a power of suggestion, but I tell you, it makes a world of difference when you start to try and enjoy something, just to sit down and to think about it and what's in that and what went into that bottle of whiskey that came out of one of these beautiful barrels of whiskey, and the variety that you get.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a long time coming. People asked us why we didn't do a rye. And, we were probably one of the last to market with a rye, Old Forester was. But, we wanted to do it right. You do a couple different yeast strains, couple different mash bills, whatever, and throw it in a warehouse for 3, 4, 5 years, see what works best, which mash bill you want to do, whatever. And then you make a lot of it. And this is a batching of 4, 5, and 6 years on this rye. Really all credit to our master taster, Miss Jackie Zyken. This was her baby. She batched it, but I think most importantly, she fought for this one. Any new rye that comes to market, you guys probably know it's $50 at least,
yes,
or higher. This was released line priced with our signature 100 at $22 to $25. It is meant to be a bartender's rye. Jackie was visiting bartenders. She seated bartenders all over the country with this prior to release. Rye, it has kind of, now it's standing on its own. It kind of rode bourbon's coattails back through this revolution, and now it's definitely standing on its own. But all these Prohibition-era cocktails are coming back into fashion. The rye cocktails are coming back into fashion. And this is really meant to be a bartender's rye in the well, making all those wonderful cocktails.
Now, Josh, when you always talk about your favorite drink, you always say you want an old fashioned, right?
Yes, absolutely. And a rye whiskey goes great.
I was going to say, if I'm going to make an old fashioned, I'm grabbing the Old Faux Rye.
Oh, this turns into the licorice and everything that you were talking about. Yeah.
Without a doubt. This is a great one in an old-fashioned, but I'll drink a whole lot in an old-fashioned. I have not. So this one's been in my bar, unlike the previous couple of days where I said I had to go out and buy the 86 and the 100 proof signature because I'm a bourbon snob. The rye, the fanboy in me, when it came out, I had to be one of those guys that jumped out to the liquor store here in Louisville, even though I live in southern Indiana. I had to be that guy that went, drove, tried to find the closest liquor store, found it, and brought it home with me because I'm a fanboy, and I did enjoy it as well. So, for our listeners that may be newer to whiskey and not a rye whiskey drinker, the difference that we see in bottles, just in labeling, rye whiskey bottles traditionally have a green connotation or a green label or some kind of a sticker on them that's green. And that typically differentiates them from the rest of the whiskeys or bourbons, aside from the 1897 100 proof.
And the 1920 also has kind of a greenish tinge to it, if I remember correctly.
You're just colorblind.
Is it green or blue?
It's blue,
Like
bro.
a sea blue. Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. It kind of reminds me of green. But
So, on the third day of Old Foe, my liquor store sold to me an Old Forester 100 proof rye that's pretty damn good.
whiskey. So if you want to find us at Bourbon Barrel Talk, you can look us up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can email us at bourbonbarreltalk@gmail.com. Lots of good places to find us. Our website is up and running. It's not real active. We're still trying to find somebody to help us do that. So we also have a YouTube channel. We just uploaded that a couple of months ago. So check out our YouTube channel. We're going to start adding some videos on there. I'm going to have Josh do some blind tastings and other things like that on there. And
Probably
we're
not.
going to have some fun stuff. Oh, we're going to do it.
I got a face made for radio.
That's all right. I do too. So if you're looking for us, that's where you can find it. We're going to keep continuing on the 12 days of Old Foe. And this is Scott, Josh, and Tyler. We're signing off.
And I hope that you all learn to love Old Foe as much as Fanboy does.
Out.